Hello, hello, hello. Wow, it is dark in here. Jeez. Okay, so the topics for today: cracks in the cathedral, AI, work, and time management, and what does it mean for a company? So, cracks in the cathedral. So, the cathedral is a term that has been doing the rounds. I've heard it most often from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, which is an excellent podcast. Any conservative who wants a bit of a intellectual veneer to their discussions should listen to, especially the British accent. They're probably the only actual conservatives of note in the UK right now, outside Douglas Murray. I should put that as a topic. Anyway, cracks in the cathedral. So the Bill Maher situation is kind of interesting because he is basically Republicans are singing his praises, and Democrats are kind of condemning him for having dinner with Donald Trump. And he was pretty even-handed with Donald Trump. His whole take in his monologue was basically, "Hey, Trump was decent in person. Why is he crazy in politics?" Which is actually a pretty fair. Actually, I don't think it's fair. It's a pretty even-handed way of saying it. Hey, I don't hate the guy anymore, but I do hate what he looks like. As he put it, he's not a crazy guy. He's a guy who plays a crazy guy in real life, and that's even not quite as bad, but it's still pretty bad. Which is actually a pretty humorous take. And Republicans are like, "Oh my God, he's MAGA." So that little bit of like credit to Trump, and we're like, "Oh yeah, this guy's great, 100%." Bill Maher has finally seen the light. You've seen this also in the past week with Jon Stewart. He has one YouTube video short where he talks about how much waste there is in government. People are like, "Yeah, we love the guy. He's great." Then Democrats are like, "Oh no, you can't do that." So it's like, if you want to see like what side is more welcoming, see how they welcome people who are who agree with them a tiny bit on one issue and disagree with them on everything else. If a Democrat sees that, they'll be like, "Oh, what a terrible person. He doesn't have the right opinion on this whatever topic." Meanwhile, a Republican will be like, "Oh my God, this guy's amazing. He's my favorite Democrat." And then that difference in the responses between Republicans and Democrats slowly but surely pushes them to the right wing. It's like almost like diffusion, where you have a high tension and aggression and hatred on one side, and the other side is just mostly welcoming, and then people just slowly go down that pathway. Happened to Musk, happened to Vance, happened to Megyn Kelly, happened to a lot of people. Piers Morgan's going down that same path. Notes to Democrats: be nice to people who say a nice thing for you. Like you're losing the war among the intellectual types by doing what you're doing. But I think along with that, there's kind of like cracks in the cathedral. So the cathedral is a set of overlapping organizations that give the message kind of thing. So it's all of the people who have the same opinions and are proposing the same phrases and words and everything. Basically, the establishment, the people who are supposed to be listened to. So academia, media, high tech, church, all those different groups. And I feel like with the Bill Maher thing, there are cracks in the cathedral. People are starting to break ranks on the left. And that would be really, really good. Maybe this is if I put it in. If Republicans stayed together. But no. That's why when I see people criticize like Douglas Murray for being too pro-Israel or criticizing such and such conservative politician for such and such minor infraction, shut up. Democrats don't break ranks, at least didn't used to. We need to stick together. Like conservatives are being trounced throughout the world. And there's a few standout countries that are doing well, but in holding the line. But Europe looks like it's screwed as far as being Western civilization based instead of Muslim civilization based. And we won the election by like 1%. It was close. No matter how many times we say it was a mandate, it wasn't. It was a close election in the national sense. We need to hold the line. We need to do better. We need to succeed. None of these email mistakes, none of these little incompetences, none of these like goofball things. No, just win. Get your job done. Win. Do the policies that make people happy, because if we lose, we're screwed. The country's screwed. Western civilization is screwed for a long time. So we need to do a good job for the people. And that sounds like political wonk speak, but like, I don't know. If you're a populist, be popular. It's not that difficult, okay? So that's my talk on Crack to the Cathedral. And stop bashing at the conservatives. Just stop. If you think you might do so, unless they're doing something obviously stupid, like the Christian national ID thing, yeah, criticize her all you want. That's fine. But don't just go after don't go after Douglas Murray. He's my boy. He's great. Okay, so AI. I continue to be shocked how much of a differential there is between actual engineers and the technologist class. So people like Scott Adams and Malcolm and Simone Collins, Zuckerberg, all the tech CEO people, they keep saying that AI is going to take over everybody's jobs, which I'm not sure why they would tell people that. It seems to be a good method of getting people to be against investment in technology if they said investments in technology are going to take away everybody's jobs. These people are supposed to be smart. Do they know nobody listens to them? Maybe that's it. Meanwhile, the actual engineers I've talked to are all like, it doesn't work for what we're using it for. It's like, oh, it can make a function. It can do boilerplate code. Wonderful. How many times have you just had to write a function in work recently? Well, maybe that's the change that's happened. But like, I feel like it's not. I feel like while most of the work has always been going through some Tingle spaghetti code and finding some random thing that does what you wanted to do and then pouring it out and getting data go from one point A to point B despite some security thing because somebody set a security setting to be A instead of B, yada, yada, yada. Very boring stuff. But that's what software developers actually do. So when they say, oh, AI is going to take over these jobs, it's like, no, it's not. And then like, oh, service jobs. Well, no. Do you need a tech support person when everything goes right for following the rules? No, you need a tech person in India to break the rules for you. To say, hey, I'm going to unlock your account. You can do so. You do such and such, just to get you out of your hair. Computers don't do that. Computer will just keep banging its head against the wall on the official processes. Computers are great at following the rules. You need humans to break them, and that's most of what jobs are actually for: is have some person in the group to break the rules for you. Nobody wants to say that because nobody wants to say, "Oh, the rules are important." Well, it's like, well, this is what happens when you have a bunch of yellow-minded people in charge instead of red-minded. And I'm speaking, of course, of red, yellow, blue, green, the four personality types that consultants like to talk about. The red people are just like get stuff done. Yellow people are like caution. The caution people are in charge right now. And they do less of a good job than you'd think. But it's just such a big gap between the two groups, the actual engineers versus the technologists. And honestly, I typically side with the engineers in this discussion. I always tend to side with the people on the ground floor doing the work over the people who are thinking about doing the work. That said, billions of dollars have an opinion. And if $1 trillion gets shot at something, far be it from me to bet against $1 trillion. I don't know how it's going to happen. It might be this current iteration of AI. It might be the next one. I don't know. I just think that if you bet against $1 trillion, it might not even ever be real AI. But for $1 trillion, you can make a pretty good facsimile of AI. So I'm really interested to see how that turns out. On the other hand, I always change the channel whenever people talk about AI because it makes me very uncomfortable. And it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, which is why some people listen to it and some people turn away. Because you don't want the humans to be replaced, you see. Now, the only thing I would say is for sympathy of people who are worried AI is going to take our jobs away. There was a world before office work. In a lot of cultural ways, it was a better world. A lot of the things that are dying in Western civilization a lot of the dying in Western civilization is being caused by office culture. Now, I love office culture. I love office jokes. But I don't know if it's actually a bad thing if it goes away. Maybe we should go back to the world we had before that, which is what we would have to do. And that's not the worst thing, right? What is going to be interesting is we're going to have, back then we had daemons controlling everything behind the scenes. And in the future, we're going to have daemons behind the scenes controlling everything, which is kind of really funny. But along with AI comes the idea that nobody seems to have a good balance between having work and not having work when you're working. So I've had one, two, three, four, five. I've had 5 jobs so far. Maybe a few more if you count internships and the like, lab work and stuff like that. And I noticed something. You either are working your butt off and are exhausted from working so hard, or you have nothing to do and you're exhausted from having nothing to do. And there's no like middle ground. It is really tough to find like, hey, I am somewhat engaged at work and I got stuff to do. That balance is so rare. It is shocking. So, and I've had so many jobs where I've had to work my butt off, like developing apps for the research lab I was part of, or doing a great migration in another company I was in, migrating from doing cloud computing stuff. And at Epic, I think that's far enough back. I can mention Epic. As everybody worked like 60 hours a week despite getting paid peanuts. And then Baker Hughes, but then on the other side of the spectrum, I've had jobs where you just have nothing to do at all, and you're just going dumb with boredom. So Baker Hughes, I was in oil and gas for a year, and you were just sitting there waiting for the drill bit to go another 20 meters so you could run a report and do file save and these stupid like saving file nonsense stuff. And you're just bored out of your mind the rest of the time. And then my current job, hopefully nobody at work watches this, where I'm very, very bored. There's actually stuff going on, but it's like there's also spans of boredom, such as an operations support person, which is what I'm doing now. And yeah, I know it's not that technical compared to the development or DevOps stuff I was doing before, but the money is fantastic for God knows what reason. Now, we'll see how long that lasts for. But it's really funny how there's just jobs we have so much to do and jobs we have nothing to do. And I don't know what the cause of that is. I feel like it just you have two mindsets of just throwing more and more people and then throwing more and more work at the people. And there's nobody who has the judgment to say both or neither. And I think that's what's happening now. Is basically we're going from a space where in tech where nobody's working. There's a lot of people not doing anything, especially the big tech companies, except practicing weak code or whatever. And now we're going back to a situation everybody's going to have a ton of work thrown at them. Unless AI just takes it on, which is a possibility, as I discussed before. I don't know, man. It seems to be a universal problem, though, that the balance of work is never that sweet spot. Maybe that's always been the case. Like if you look back at farming days when people agriculture, there was harvest time, there's planting time, and then there's the winter. We have 3 months with nothing to do. But I think the issue is that the time spans are shorter and less predictable. So back in the Middle Ages, you had summer, everybody worked, and then you knew there was winter coming, and then nobody worked, and everybody made babies and cooked and made music and stuff. So it's predictable, and there's a 3-month span. So 3 months you can completely refresh yourself. So there's a reason why the environment came from a cold area where nobody had anything to do during the winter. Even the two just talked and had conversations. And that's might be where civilization comes from to a certain extent. But now it's just why you have nothing to do, but you don't know when there's gonna be a bunch of stuff to do, or else when you're gonna have nothing to do and be struggling to get food to get by. And you can't plan it. And that's the issue. That's part of the issue, I think, is you can't plan anything. It's just like, yeah, I am really rich right now. I make really good money. I have a house. I have everything. I can afford everything for now. But now I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know, a month from now or 2 months from now. I don't know. And that, I think, is just exhausting. And I really wish society had a better way of apportioning work. Unfortunately, capitalism might be the best one, but come on, is this really the best we can do? Anyway, those are my 3 bands for today. Cheers. I'm going to keep talking for a minute to get to the 15-minute mark because that's an arbitrary goal. All right, there we go. All right, cheers.